Hello everybody. Today we're going to move on from adding. You guys were doing such a good job with adding. And when we were adding, our numbers and our sets became bigger. Today we're going to start subtracting. And when we subtract, our numbers get smaller. So for today's lesson, I want you to have your paper and your counters. We're going to use the counters today to help us. All right, so here's my page. And we are going to see how we can show subtraction as separating. Let me first read our first math problem to you. 3 children are working in the reading center. Here's the reading center. Then 1 boy goes to the sand table. How many children are left in the reading center? So now we're going to take that math problem apart and fill out our number sentence. So how many children did we start with in the reading center? Let's put a counter on top of each of them. 1, 2, 3. We started with 3. So we can trace our 3. That's the number we start with before anybody leaves or goes or does anything. That's the number that we put in our first blank. How many children left the reading center? 1. So we can take his counter away. 1 child. So this symbol is called minus. So we'll trace our minus. And then on the second blank, we're going to put how many leave. So we had 1 boy leave the center. And we can put that counter away. We don't need it anymore. And we have our equal symbol. And now this last blank is where we're going to figure out how many children are still in the reading center. So we have our counters. So let's count our counters as we figure out how many are still in the reading center. 1, 2. There are 2 children still in the reading center. And we can actually look at the picture and we can see there's the 3 children that were in the reading center. Here's the little boy that left, and there are only 2 that are left sitting at the table. Okay, let's turn the page. And now we're on number 1. We're going to continue using our counters. So if we look at this picture, I'm thinking it's going to be a picture that has to do with lunch. So let me read you the math problem. 4 children are eating at the lunchroom table. Then 2 children leave the table. How many children are still at the table? So when we first started, how many children are at the table? There were 4. So let's put a counter on each child that started lunch together. So we started with 4, and we will write 4. There's the 4 for the 4 children that started lunch at the table. And then a boy and a girl leave the table. How many left the table? 2. So we can take those 2 away, trace our minus, and write 2 for the 2 that left. So we started with 4, 2 left the table. Now how many children are still at the table? That's our question to figure out. So we have equals, and we have our counters here that we can count to see how many are still at the table. 1, 2. 2 are still at the table. And there you go. Let's turn the page. Turn my page so I can get my math problem out of my book. All right. I have my counters again. Okay, let's read this math problem. There are 5 children at the block center. Then one girl leaves. How many children are still in the block center? So how many started at the beginning of the problem in the block center? 5. So let's put a counter on each child that started in the block center. There's our 5 that started in the block center. And since we started with 5, we can write our 5. Okay, how many children left the block center? 1. So we're going to take 1 away. We'll put that here and we'll trace our minus. So we had 5 minus 1. So we had 5 kids, 1 left. And let's see how many we have that are still left. Let's trace our equals and count and see how many children are still in the block center. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. And when we read the math problem, it would be 5 minus 1 equals 4. 5 children, take 1 away, we have 4 left. Okay. Let's turn to the back to our last set of problems. Number 3 up here in this empty box. Blair has 2 marbles. He gives 1 marble to his friend. How many marbles does Blair have now? So let's draw our 2 marbles. Blair has 2 marbles. Okay. And then we can write our 2 on the first line because that's how many he starts with. How many does he give to his friend? He gives 1. So I'm going to put an X on the 1 and put the 1. 2 minus 1 equals, and how many marbles does Blair have now that he gave 1 away? We have 1 left. Blair has 1 left. Okay, let's read number 4. 5 children went to the park together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we will put our counters on them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our 5 children that went to the park together. 2 of the children left. 1, 2. How many children are staying at the park? And we can just count our counters to see how many are still there. 1, 2, 3. And bubble it in. There you go. All right. When you finish that, take a picture and send it to me. And if you have any trouble or you don't understand something, let me know so I can figure out a time that I can talk with you, see what you're getting mixed up on.